Good morning, team. Today we're going to start in talking about lab number 9, which I sent to you a few days back. And I'll just flip to the document and show you what it looks like. That's lab number 9 there. Lab number 9 is basically about the movement of particles, whether those particles are water molecules or those particles are nutrients or whatever. The movement of particles from high concentration, where there's a lot of particles in one space, to a low concentration. And sometimes in doing that, it moves across a membrane. And so to start us out, I'm actually going to go off script a little bit, and I'm going to tell you a story about when I was a kid, the 1984 Olympics. And the 1984 Olympics were in Los Angeles, and I remember watching it with my dad, and he had the women's marathon on. And my dad, I remember him explaining to me that this he felt the biggest race in the Olympics. And it blew my mind because I was all about the 100-meter dash. I was like, the women's marathon is the biggest race? And he explained to me, well, this is the first women's Olympic marathon, and there are a lot of people out there that feel that, yeah, women can't compete in marathons, and these women are about to show all of them wrong. So the woman on your left, her name is Joan Benoit, and she won it. She was the gold medalist. And the woman on your right is Grete Waitz, and she was second place and was the reigning world champion and world record holder for the women's marathon before the Olympics. And I remember watching Joan Benoit just took off, running as fast as she could, and the commentator watching this and saying, like, oh, how long can she hold on this pace? How long can she hold off Grete Waitz, who was maybe, say, 50 meters behind her the entire race, and just waiting for Grete Waitz to just attack and full speed plow through and take the gold medal away from her. And as we watch the race, there's stations where they get water. They're running along. They don't stop, and people just stop, hold water out. They grab it, drink it, drop it on the ground, and keep running. And at one of the water stations, they saw somebody from the crowd hand Grete Waitz basically like a tissue. And she kept running, and then the next water station again, somebody with a tissue. And it came out that Grete Waitz had the flu and actually was battling with diarrhea while running the women's Olympic marathon, and still managed to get the silver medal. And I thought, wow, that is the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. A few minutes later, a woman named Gabriella Anderson finished the race. And I'm just going to put this up on video, and you can see what happened here. And Grete Waitz, the silver medalist who had the flu, who was battling diarrhea, and still won the silver medal, and was for about 2 minutes the toughest person I ever saw, until Gabriella Anderson came in. And you can see her walking through the stadium. She is extremely dehydrated. What had happened is, the last water station, for some reason, she just missed it. And it was 30 degrees that day in Los Angeles, and she had run almost 42 kilometers. She was coming to the end, and you can see what's going on. Like, she is losing control of her body. She is losing control of her muscles as she attempts to finish this race. The guys you see on the white there, those are doctors, and they're walking beside her, watching her, afraid that this woman is about to die on the international stage in the first ever women's Olympics. And just the strength of this woman, the resiliency of this woman to keep going, focusing step, 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 as her muscles just shut down. Without the water, her cells, all of them, shrink and stop functioning and start to die. And you can see as she goes, she's lost control of her arm, her left arm. She can't control it anymore. And she's just barely holding on, trying to cross that finish line. It's a good lesson from two parts. One, it's an illustration of the power of the human spirit, and and how tough you can be if you need to be, if a challenge is in front of you. And two, it's science-wise, it's a lesson in what's called hypertonic and hypotonic environments. Okay, I put three pictures up: hypotonic solutions, hypertonic solutions, and isotonic solutions. And what these solutions indicate is different concentrations of particles. Okay, in a hypotonic solution, okay, or a hypotonic environment, you have not very many particles. Okay, there's not very many particles outside the cell. In a hypertonic environment, you have a lot of particles outside the cell. And then in an isotonic environment, you have equal concentrations of particles inside and outside the cell. And one of the most amazing things in physics is the law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics. And what that law says is, given the opportunity, the universe will become more random. Okay, this is a tea bag. You've seen this probably 1,000 times making tea. And what happens is you can see the particles from the tea bag. That's a high concentration of tea particles. Given the opportunity, those particles will spread out. They will become more random. That process is called diffusion. It doesn't take any energy. Okay, it is one of the laws of thermodynamics says that particles, if given the opportunity, will move from a high concentration to a low concentration, and no energy is involved. And that is the diffusion of tea, and that also is the diffusion of water. Okay, and in the case of Gabriella Anderson, what had happened is she missed a water station. She did not provide her cells with an isotonic environment. She did not have enough water molecules out here to equalize the concentrations in and out the cell. And so she has all of these solutes, not enough water, and what happens is water began to flow out of her cells to attempt to equalize the concentrations. Okay? Here's some examples. All right, on the left is a hypertonic environment. This is like what happened to Gabriella Anderson. She didn't replace the water, and so the water went from the high concentration in the cell to the low concentration outside the cell. Okay, there's a lot of salt molecules and ions outside of the cells. There's fewer inside, and so what happens is the water moves out of her cells to try to equalize it. Okay, in a hypotonic solution, you get the exact opposite. If you have too much water outside the cell and not enough salt, the water will rush into the cells, okay, through osmosis, past the membrane, and expand the cells. And you can get a situation where they rupture like this. This is the goal. This is why your coaches, why your PE teachers, why your parents are telling you to drink water in Malaysia, is to keep this balance of water concentration and salt concentration inside and outside your cells the same, and that allows your cells to work efficiently. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to take a look at an introduction to diffusion. Okay, I'll put this up on Google Classroom, but we're going to read through the introduction, the first part, starting here. Let me find it for you. Okay, so with a model system. It talks about, okay, now, I mean, we can't use humans. You saw what happened to Gabriella Anderson. We can't use humans to investigate this sort of thing. We need to use other models, other systems to illustrate what's going on. And one of the ones that we're going to use is what's called Allodia. That's a type of plant. We're going to look at Allodia plants and deal with different concentrations of water and see what happens to the cells. So I want you to read that, and I want you to read about absorption by diffusion and how particles move from a high concentration to a low concentration. And eventually what we'll do is get to water and osmosis and the movement of water molecules from a high concentration to a low concentration. I'm going to be on email. Keep the questions coming, and looking forward to seeing you guys again, hopefully on Monday. Take care.